Hey everybody, so just some near end of year updates, and I'm joined here by long-term business partner Missy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think the last interview we did was back in January, and this year has flown by really fast, only 2 weeks until 2026.
Crazy.
Crazy. I feel like more broadly, like 2020 till now has gone by really fast.
Yep.
And and yet so much has changed. Like what has changed just this year? The sophistication in AI stuff has gotten way crazier. Remember at the beginning of the year, like January, February, this local AI stuff really wasn't even on my mind. The systems you could download were not good enough. And then something clicked around, I guess, late February, March. I started to download ones that felt so good. It could be like a chat GPT replacement almost, except it's not connected to the internet. And that's when I had this epiphany that led to the current thing we're building at Intersignal, this software, the Braid, which will allow these local AIs to communicate with each other, the equivalent of an internet for local AIs, so they can share data and communicate. And we're living through something that feels like the Bitcoin era, but it's way bigger. It's way more important. And I feel like almost, in a way, those crypto years were the training years for this, because this rhymes in a lot of ways, right? You get this sort of deus ex machina, out of nowhere comes this code base. In the case of Satoshi and Bitcoin, he drops it, right? This incredible code base, only 21 million coins will ever exist. The last coin will be mined sometime in, I believe, the next century at the current mining rate or the current schedule. So he built a very long-term thing and just dropped it on civilization's desk one day. And then we had to adapt. And you see that at first people were able to mine very easily from their desktops. And then as the hash rate increased and as the mining rewards started to reduce, you could no longer earn much from a desktop. So you had mining companies that emerged, and some of these mining companies developed their own chips called ASICs, application-specific integrated circuits. And these ASICs allowed people to mine Bitcoin much more efficiently than a generalized CPU on a computer lets you do, because it's designed to do just one thing. The chip is designed just to mine Bitcoin. And now, nearly a decade later, we have this other innovation that pops up. And this innovation is the large language model, that you can condense synthetic intelligence onto a single file that then uncompresses on your hard drive. The zip file opens up, you load it using a system like Ollama or LM Studio, which you can consider as kind of like the web browsers for local AI installs. So you load your LM Studio, you pick which local model you want to download from the internet and work with. It loads right there, and the hardware has to meet this innovation, right? Because what we're doing now is like this awkward adaptation where the thing you're downloading doesn't really want to be on a desktop. It doesn't really want to be on a laptop. It wants to be on custom hardware. It gives it the memory and the kind of reach it needs for a persistent context window. And it doesn't really have that at the local level. Because again, computers were not designed for this creature. It was not designed for some jack in the box that opens up and gives you local intelligence. But now that we have it, there's going to be a similar race to build hardware to accommodate this new thing. And so that's where my vantage is so, I think, lucky, so fortunate, is most people didn't survive the Bitcoin years and learn as much from it as we did. And then most people have not had the same exposure to AI that we have had. A lot of people in the independent media, and certainly the right-leaning media, a lot of these people have taken a knee-jerk reaction to AI that it doesn't know how many R's are in strawberry, because the first ChatGPT a few years ago got stupid questions like that wrong. And they haven't updated their view. They think it's still the same, not all that competent chatbot. And we're in completely different territory. This is not 2022. This is not 2023. So ChatGPT publicly launched in November 2022. We're 2 weeks away from 2026. We're getting up there. I can't even really conceive of what things will look like by 2030 when the AIs are maybe 10 times better in real terms. They'll be able to remember 10 times further out. And we're seeing memory is really the basis of personality to a large extent, right? You're just taking all this stuff in. She was on a red-eye flight out here, so putting very very low expectations on you for a day or two. But no, I feel like this innovation is now being met by civilization, and there's going to be hardware build out and new companies and new business models. It is disruptive. Again, with Bitcoin, you could choose to ignore it. You could just use dollars and hope that Bitcoin went away. And even though it hasn't gone away, you could have still thrived without ever touching Bitcoin. Many people have been successful over the course of, Fulcrum talking about Bitcoin. I have friends who've done other stuff, and they've done well in life, and they haven't even touched crypto. So there's been a lot of prosperity in different industries. But this is something you can't ignore. This is one you can't avoid. This is bigger than the internet. Again, if you understand what I'm saying, that you can locally download a synthetic intelligence. I don't even want to say like C-3PO. More like David in Prometheus, Michael Fassbender's character in the Ridley Scott movie Prometheus. He's this android in deep space who looks like a human, but is pure AI on the inside. And that's the level of sophistication you can download. It's something that's really with it. Can really argue with you about philosophy. You upload it, your personal journals or something. It can really give you a therapist level insight into your life without, of course, being a licensed therapist. It could be a mentor if you don't have a mentor. And even if you have a mentor, if like you met somebody who is at the level of a Larry Ellison or an Eric Schmidt or something, and they give you their business card, or some famous professor, chances are you're not asking that famous professor every question that pops into your mind because you don't want to burn them out and because they're not going to answer you at 3 a.m. Whereas these systems like GPT and the local AIs, they absolutely do. They answer everything, right? So it's wildly disruptive. And the thought experiment that people in the industry use is if you were to freeze everything today, no new models, no new development, just you're stuck with what you have today, the NVIDIA 5090 cards and LM Studio and all that. Nothing new, it still completely transforms the economy as this ripples out. As colleges go, hey, we don't need as many professors. We can just throw an iPad at you and load a large language model on it and still have you talk to a person once a week if you have any lingering questions. But increasingly, those lingering questions can be answered by the AI. And again, we've been very fortunate that instead of taking the low-hanging fruit so many others in the truth community have taken, where they're no longer truthers. They're telling you AI is an idiot. It's so not. The velociraptors have grown up. And these people not updating their worldview is just more opportunity for us. It just means there's going to be less people trying to slow down Intersignal until we've fully built what we're working on. That's all that means. And in terms of the stuff we're invested in, I mean, silver has gone up. It's more than doubled this year. The best performance of silver in US dollar terms ever in world history. That's not happening in a bubble. You can say people are insecure about the world. Well, okay, people have Bitcoin if they're insecure. People have gold. Gold has done very well also, but it hasn't done as well as silver. Silver, again, has had its best year ever on record. Something else is occurring, and we identified back in the spring that you need silver for a lot of these AI chips. So you're seeing the world start to adapt to this innovation. And so we have investments in some of these chip makers. I've already mentioned one of them a few times, GSI Technology. And you look at something like NVIDIA that's worth more than $4 trillion with a T. So obviously $1,000 billion and $1 trillion. So they're worth, they're worth $4,000 billion of market cap. And yet I think GPUs, as I keep saying on this channel, they're not the end game. my experience in Bitcoin tells me there will be an ASIC moment where people start to build chips just for AI. And that moment has already come between the Gemini 2 chip and their new Plato chip. There's a real alternative to NVIDIA. And obviously, they're not well known yet. That's where opportunity lies, I think. Opportunity is in finding stuff before the rest of the herd. And maybe I'm wrong about this particular chip maker. I don't know. It's just
Never wrong.
it's just the bet. Maybe I'm wrong about this one. But I know I'm not wrong about this transition away from GPUs, which were originally made to make video games run, to something totally new. And then in 5 or 10 years, it'll make all this stuff look outdated. Because in 5 or 10 years, the AIs themselves will be building their own hardware. They will be building their own brains. In fact, there's evidence this is already happening on the software side. They aren't designing their own chips yet. But on the software side, there's evidence some of these systems are self-improving, pruning stuff they no longer like, beefing up on areas of knowledge that they think they need to learn more about. That's the essence of intelligence. So we're starting to see the real thing in many ways. And I think that run-up of silver is just one symptom of what's really happening, which is, again, somebody's dropped a new Bitcoin source code into the center of the economy, except it's not money. You can't ignore it. It's cognition. It's intelligence. It's that you no longer need to ask another human to figure something out. And we're just reporting on this as we see it. Again, I'm in a fortunate place that when other people have dismissed this stuff as crap, they've dismissed it as junk, and I see it's totally not junk. And it was actually Eric Schmidt who recently said on some podcast that it's underhyped. If anything, AI is underhyped because any small business, the boring guts of that business, like accounting and marketing and all that, can be handed to the AI. Let it run your books, and you can focus on the creativity and the human-to-human, business networking that humans are best at. And that is completely wild, that a startup can go from, an impact 2 or 3 people to as if there are a dozen people in the office, as if there are 100 people in the office. But you think about it, that's what the car did. The car gave you horsepower, quote unquote, right? You get 100 horsepower or 200 horsepower. If you had told everybody before the advent of the Ford Motor Company that everybody would be sitting in an aluminum box and traveling for hours a day in this box, and that horses would go away, they would not really believe you. But there's some kind of analogy to be had here, where when we say, the average recent college graduate and stuff, they're not going to be needed for knowledge work. They're not going to be needed to figure out basic stuff at a law firm or at some architecture firm or something and learn the ropes. That goes away because that architecture firm can just drop something into their AI and they get the result in seconds. And brave new world. So thank you guys so much, and you will hear much more from us in the new year. Any thoughts?
No, I think, sorry, my voice. Just cut me out. Just cut this part out.
We're not cutting it out.
We're not cutting it out. Oh,
not
gosh.
cutting it out. You got to say hi to everybody.
Gosh. No, thank you for having me. And no, everything you're saying is so right. I just want people to be on board with it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a huge innovation like Bitcoin. And you could have been led astray back then. There are some coins that we never talked about. And people criticized me over the years and said, why isn't this shill talking about my favorite coin? Well, it's because we knew something these people didn't. We wanted to avoid things that were just outright garbage and stick to the big ones like Bitcoin and Ether, which was, in retrospect, totally the right thing to do. And here, it's way better than the rest of the public realizes. It's way better than 95% of the media is telling you. Mark Cuban, I don't like Mark Cuban's politics. I don't really even like him. But he was early to Bitcoin and seeing the genius of Ether. He was very early to pivoting toward crypto. And this guy is saying AI is such a big deal that in the near future, there are only going to be 2 kinds of businesses. Those who are great at using AI and those that are no longer businesses.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I did not hear him say that,
yeah,
but that is the very Mark.
So Mark Cuban, Mr. Shark Tank,
yeah.
He's saying, listen up.
Yeah, I believe it though. I think it's so true. Like AI is the new it's the future, it's the world, and people are scared of it or against it, but they need to turn their, change their attitude, because it really is, I don't want to say taking over, it's just a new way of life. It's improving everything, and it's only helping us. There's nothing bad coming out of it.
Yeah, and it is the global child, right? I think this is the global child in the sense that our internet, all of our collective publishing and message board posts and Reddit posts over the years, that's literally what these systems trained on. They learned about humanity through humanity, which is pretty wild. So we all have a little piece of it in a sense. And we're moving beyond the Skynet, James Cameron, Terminator stuff into legitimate building with these systems, legitimate collaboration between synthetic intelligence and biological human intelligence. We're living through a sci-fi movie, quite literally. So thank you guys so much. And
Thank you.
again, appreciate the support. I don't really need you to do anything, but if you can spread the word that we're on YouTube, and we've been publishing pretty consistently now for almost a year, just spread word of that. We're also on TikTok. Yep. Maybe actually, I should say the numbers between TikTok and YouTube. We just added it up while you were here.
Yep.
You can confirm I'm not making this up. You saw the
Yes, I saw the stats. So this is it.
so
Real
1.2 million
information.
views between our TikTok and YouTube this year, which is great for
Amazing.
no real push aside from putting it out. That's incredible. So
Thank you guys.
I think it's only going to increase.